Here goes my 5th Dawn pack opening. I am super excited to open this pack because this was one of the first sets that I saw when I was a young lad. I remember that I would go to this store called GCG, Game Connect Game, and in the front of the store was Magic cards, some Pokemon cards, I'm sure there's Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and then in the back of the store there were probably 20 computers that were hooked up to LAN or internet that you could play on. So I remember the art is what really got me into Magic when I was a kid. So let's proceed. But first, I want to look at this pack. I notice on this pack compared to newer packs that the packaging is like tight to the cards on the inside. I think new packs sometimes are loose, sometimes they're just, I don't know. Not that it's terrible, but I just like the tightness of this pack. I like the shininess, expert level, so make you feel like an expert when you play these cards. I remember when I was a kid, I actually looked at that expert level and I was like, huh, these must be for like grown-ups that are really good at card games. If we look at the back, designed by Richard Garfield. Let's see, Continua 15 cartes in Anglias. So 15 English cards. You know, new packs these days have 14 cards. So 15 card booster 15 card booster pack we got here. All right, are we done admiring the pack, or is it time to open? All right, it's time to open. All right, cards are facing up. Whew, Loxodon, Anchorite. Look at that. Prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn for tapping. You know, it's a very good combat trick. You know, if your opponent attacks in and they attack with their 3/3 and you block with your 3/3, you just prevent 2 damage to your 3/3 and boom, you got a 1 for 0. So that's cool. I always like these Loxodon too. I feel like this block had these Loxodon elephants, and then that grass. See that sharp grass? That's also very reminiscent of these cards in this era. And we're looking at cards from 2004. So Loxodon, Anchorite. That's awesome. I'm happy to get that one. Cart Clan Ogre. I also remember this guy. 5 mana for a 3/3. Sacrifice an artifact. Target creature can't block this turn. Well, first let's look at the art. You just don't see art like that these days. You got this little, looks like the ogre's pulling a flail or just a chain with a ball on it, and there's a little goblin on the back one, and this goblin right here with his pointy nose and his pointy chin. And then as far as utility of this card, sacrifice an artifact, target creature can't block this turn. I would not say this is very usable, but I like the ogre's teeth and I like the goblin's pointy chin. All right, Sawtooth Thresher. Let's get a closer look at that. Sorry, my lighting's not the best. Sunburst. When it comes to play with 1 counter for each color of mana used to pay it. So potentially you could get a 6/6 for 6. Remove 2 counters from it. He gets plus 4/4 until end of turn. So if he's a 6/6, you remove 2 counters, so he goes to 4/4, he becomes an 8/8. I don't think you'd ever use this ability unless you're just swinging in or just need to block a creature that happens to be a 7/7. So, decent. I do like the art though. There's some more of that sharp grass on the bottom. All these Sunburst cards have the different colored of mana moons in the background. There's the black mana right there. So, cool card. Alan Polak. Next we have Advanced Hover Guard. 4 mana, 2/2. I feel like that's definitely been power crept. I feel like these days a basic flyer will be a 3 mana, 2/2. But it does have this upside of can't be the target spell's ability. So hexproof for 1 blue. So that's pretty good actually. It does suck to have to keep 1 mana open all the time to protect that, but you know, I'd say this is a mid card. I don't think I've actually seen this card before. Look at that little mouth. Look at that. All right, next we have Tyrannix. I remember this card. 6 mana for a 5/4. You can give it -1/+1. It outnumbers you 1 too many. Again, really cool art. I love the grittiness that Magic cards had in this era. Little like T-Rex hands with scythes. Kind of a metallic worm tail. And another extra spike coming out the back. All right. So still in the commons. Ooh, cranial plating. This is a classic. This is a very useful card. Actually, I have one of these being used in one of my decks, and I don't know if it's from, Fifth Dawn. Sorry, I had to look at the package to remember the name. I don't know if it's the one I have is the Fifth Dawn version, so I might switch this one out because this is actually a very useful card. Equipped creature gets +1/0 for each artifact you control. And you can, the 2 black to attach it to a target creature, you can do that at instant speed. That's the advantage of that. And then equip for 1. So off the bat, it's already going to have +1 for it itself being an artifact. And yeah, for artifact decks, this is very useful. And for those of you who don't know, this cranial plating is, I believe they're called Nims in Magic. You'd see some cards with the Nims at this time in this era, and they all had artifact synergy. So the flavor of this card it fits in with all the other Nim, but you don't see the name Nim anywhere. So little lore for you. All right, next we have Mana Gazer. Gazer. For 5 mana, add 1 mana for each tapped land your opponents control. You know what? For 5 mana, that would not be useful on a 1-to-1 game, but maybe Commander, which I am not a player of Commander. But what can I say about this card? 5 long appendages coming out of the water. It's pretty cool. All right, still in the commons, Thought Courier. The classic draw a card, then discard a card. Many cards have this ability, but this one has that cool flowing metal in the background. So if you like flowing metal, this is your card. Or if you like orbs, is she doing that finger trick where she takes her finger off? Can't tell. Yeah, a lot of these cards, it's like the sharp grass or this flowing metal. All right, let's see what we got next. Sparring Collar. This is just like that. This is just like the cranial plating. The same, I think they have one for each color in this set. So this is the red version. Equipped creature has first strike. 2 reds, you can attach this to a creature you control. And then equip for 1. So, say not as useful. It's not going to buff a creature as much as cranial plating potentially could. But the first strike, that's always useful, especially to put on Death Touchers. So this would be a really good one. You know, you could put this in any Death Touch deck. 1 equipped, that's pretty good. All right, Armed Response. What is that? Is that a goblin, I think? And a lion statue. Armed Response deals damage to target attacking creature equal to the number of equipment you control for 3. Ooh, that is attacking creature. That is not, you know, these days in Magic, a lot of times you'll have deal damage to attacking or blocking creature. So already attacking or blocking, and it'll deal 3 damage, many times for 2 mana. So yeah, I would say the maybe baseline for a card like this nowadays is 2 mana. This spell does 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. So this card has definitely been power crept. I don't even know if it was useful back in the day. All right, another common. Still in the commons. Sacrifice an artifact. This gains flying till end of turn. Ooh, looks like he's grabbing onto a cotton spore. I always was wondering. I always looked at that when I saw this card. Is like, is that a cotton spore? Why does it look blurry right there? See, is this a cotton picking machine? But I mean, it's still really cool. Looks like a little bug. Artifact creature. And back in these days, it wasn't artifact creature dash creature type. All artifact creatures just said artifact creature. So that is another thing that has changed over time with Magic. Yeah, not much else to say about that. I would say this seems like it sucks, but back then probably was just a mid card. All right, first uncommon, Etched Oracle. I don't know if any of you know, there's a card called Etched Champion. So this is probably the, I believe this and Etched Champion are the same, but Etched Champion's like the new version of this. And you can see again, artifact creature, that's it. It doesn't say artifact creature dash golem. That's probably what this card would be. But yeah, Etched Oracle. 4 mana, Sunburst. So this could potentially come in as a 4/4. And then 1, remove 4 counters from it, draw 3 cards. So potentially could be a 5 mana, 3 card draw. And that is actually, I would say, baseline still for a card draw for blue. But obviously this is a creature and you have to line up the mana perfectly to get that. You could also proliferate more counters onto this guy, and then that could potentially be drawing you a lot of cards. So yeah, it could be good. I think there's like a Market Back Walker now is a card that'll draw for counters, but it has to die. There's I forget the card's name, but yeah, there's similar cards. I just wonder how this would compare to other cards with removing counters to draw cards. Wow, that looks cool. I don't know if I've seen this card before. Counter target spell. If you do, that spell's controller may put a creature card from his or her hand into play. I don't know. I guess if you counter your own creature? So the problem with that is, okay, so for 4, you counter a spell, which, I mean, you can use just a counter spell for 2 because it already costs 2 blue mana. So I don't know why you'd want to use this on your opponent, because then they could potentially put a creature into play. It costs more and they could put a creature into play. Or if you use it on your own creature or your own spell, best case scenario would be you play a Phyrexian mana spell, and then for 0, or maybe like a, I don't know, some artifact that costs 0, and then you counter it, and then you can put a creature into play from your hand. The only problem with that is you're pretty much going to use 2 cards to get 1 card out. And so you're basically just discarding 2 cards. So probably not very useful. And okay, I was about to be disappointed if this was the rare. Chimeric Coils becomes an XX artifact creature. Sacrifice it at the end of turn. That does not seem good. I mean, late game, maybe make a 6/6, but then you have to sacrifice it at the end of turn. No. And there we go. That's the rare Razormane Masticore. That is actually... This is a good and bad thing, because good, I actually really like this card. I always loved that art. How sharp it is. Just imagine seeing that lion. Ooh, you couldn't even punch that thing. But this artifact creature, I also really love this. Oh, first let me say, it's good because I like this card. Bad because I already have a foil version from 5th Dawn. So yeah, it doesn't really add much to my personal collection. But I'm happy to talk about this card because I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh man, during my upkeep, I have to discard a card like that. Like, I love the art so much, but I would have it in my decks, and it would, you know, if they have a creature with they're blocking with power more or toughness more than 3, they're gonna be able to survive you. Or you discard a card, then they use a kill card, a spell, and kill this, and then you're just down an extra card. But I currently have my foil version of this in a Madness deck, so I just take advantage of that during the upkeep. Discard a card, so I just discard Madness cards, get the 3 to target creature, and sometimes that doesn't work out, but since it's a Madness deck, it's not much of a downside anyways. And then besides that, a 5/5 first strike for 5 is pretty good. That's a pretty, like, these days probably more of an average, but that was pretty powerful back in the day. So yep, there is that.